something I'm struggling with in respect to my film career is probably my film career, because I don't really have one at the moment. So now he's being hunted by this Swedish IKEA vampire. I think that is the hardest question so far.
Hello, my name is Luigi and you can find me on all the social media at luigi.filmmaking. Our next guest is a screenwriter and a music composer from Austria. Please welcome Michael Gosler.
Hi.
Michael, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm gonna put you on the spot one more time.
Okay.
If a person starts watching this right now, tell them one reason to stay.
I'm going to be absolutely terrible at this podcast, so it's probably going to be very funny to watch, so you should not miss that. I did my undergrad in Edinburgh in linguistics, and I started writing all the way back in kindergarten. And that's actually, is it a story? I'm not sure. It's kind of a story, because one thing really popular among the cool kids who were already 6 at the time was drawing treasure maps full of weird obstacles, and of course I jumped onto that. I was 5 at the time, looking after the 6-year-olds. Drew a big treasure map and then took my grandparents across town and trying to interpret whatever was in front of us as part of the treasure map and trying to find the fairy castle. And at some point my grandma said, I don't like treasure maps that much, I prefer stories. So the next day I wrote a story about a dwarf. And that's how I started writing. I was either 5 or 6, no one quite remembers, it was too long ago.
I'm trying to remember if I could write when I was in kindergarten. I don't think I could.
Well, right. I wrote in all caps without spaces. And I could write, but I couldn't read. So I other people had to read it back to me. Which is, if I tell that to people, no one ever believes me, because they're like, if you can write, you can read. It was like, no, awesome. I knew uppercase, I think I knew lowercase letters, I just couldn't be bothered. I knew uppercase letters. I didn't know how to spell, but in German, it's you can wing it, kind of. I just put one letter after the other. It was sort of comprehensible to an adult reading it. To me, it was just letters. Whether you call it writing or not, I did something writing-like. And I never stopped from that point. I kept writing. Eventually I got into writing fantasy, and sort of that was my this is kind of a backward story, but I got into writing fantasy. That got me into Tolkien, which got me into constructed languages, and then I tried myself in conlanging. I made my first language, and that's in turn what got me interested in linguistics. So then I studied linguistics in Edinburgh.
We have a little tradition on this podcast where we ask every guest to pick the question for the next guest. The guest before you wants to know, did film school work out for you? Or if you could go back, would you not attend film school anymore?
That's a very loaded question, to be honest.
Okay.
I think in general it's loaded. I think for me the answer is very clear. And it did work out the way I thought it would, and that is I met lots of cool people.
Thank you very much.
For example. And I sort of I gained an insight into the film industry and maybe a few possible entry points, which honestly was the most I would have hoped out of it, and that's what I got.
Awesome.
So in that sense it was good, yeah.
Loud and proud, yes.
I wouldn't say it's a loud and proud yes. I've not talked about the whole writing aspect, but it's a yes.
We'll get into that later. Can you give us a 10 minutes masterclass about screenwriting?
Oh God.
So, because people don't know about the science behind screenwriting. Some people heard about the hero journey, Save the Cat, but they don't know why it's important to know the characters' flaws, their wants, their needs. What is the difference between a bittersweet and a sweet ending?
Oh God, I don't think I'm a good enough screenwriter to do that, to be honest. I can talk you through my process if that's better.
Give it to us.
Because I think every writer has their own process, which can be quite different. And we in film school, we learned quite specific and restrictive kind of rules for screenwriting, which aren't necessarily necessary for a good screenplay. So what we wrote were very character-focused, single protagonist, 3-act stories, but there's many great movies that completely violate that. Good, the Bad and the Ugly is a good example. No character arcs.
Can you explain what is a character arc?
A character is basically the emotion, the personal development a character undergoes from the beginning to the end of a story, which either is a successful arc if they start with a certain flaw and overcome that flaw, or at least realize they have that flaw and start working on it over the course of the story, or they can be failed if they go back to how they were in the beginning and the end.
Can you give an example with Shawshank Redemption?
I'm not actually sure if there's much arc work going on in Shawshank Redemption. Is more of Shawshank Redemption is an interesting one because it has the structure of a tragedy without the catastrophe at the end. So more the classical Greek tragedy. I don't know how familiar you are with the concept, where it's.
I am, but for the audience at home,
it's basically the main character, without being entirely at fault themselves, gets into a bad situation, keeps getting worse until they die at the end, and their death is supposed to have a cathartic influence on the audience. And Shawshank Redemption basically is that until immediately before the end. So we have Andy Dufresne, who goes to prison for, spoilers, a crime we later learn he didn't commit. And he, at first things go better for him. He works with the guards and the other prisoners to improve everyone's life. But then, especially in the second half of the movie, his life gets worse and worse and worse until we are at a point where the audience is led to believe that he's going to kill himself. And in the last moment we learn, no, actually he was working on a tunnel for the past 20 years and escaped. I don't think there's much, I haven't seen it in a few years, so I'd have to go back and analyze it. I don't think he himself undergoes that much of an arc. It's it is more really what is the main character of that movie isn't Andy. It's the friendship between Andy and Red, his best friend in prison. And we could say that friendship undergoes an arc, because at first they don't know each other. First Red distrusts him and then they slowly become friends. Then Andy shares his dream of going to Mexico and having a boat business there. And then at the end, when Red is finally released from prison after 30 or 40 years, he goes to Mexico and finds him. I think that's more where the arc there is. But I'd be hard pressed to say, because Andy isn't really that different a person at the end than he is in the beginning, because he starts making the tunnel probably a few weeks into his stay in prison. The first thing he asks of Red is a rock hammer, which they even joke about it would be impossible to dig out with it, and then that's what he does. So yeah, that's one example of a great movie, number 1 on IMDb, which doesn't really have a traditional character arc in that sense.
Okay. Are you familiar with Up?
Up, yes, I've seen it, but a long time ago. I'm very familiar with the opening. We watched that in class.
Okay, can you give me another movie you're familiar with?
What question do you want to ask? Maybe I can.
So, screenwriting and character arc.
I mean, one that I actually for our second semester assignment, I wrote an essay on it, was again Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, because it has a very, very, very simple character arc, which is again is more of between characters, but it's ultimately between Indiana Jones and his father, who. Indiana Jones isn't really called Indiana Jones. His real name is Henry Jones Jr. His dad's called Henry Jones Sr. And Sr. never had much time for Jr. He was always too obsessed with finding the Holy Grail and doing his work. So they've kind of become a bit estranged. Jr. took on the name Indiana, which was their dog's name, which is a joke because it was George Lucas's dog's name, I think, originally, which Indiana Jones is named after. But his father refuses to call him Indiana. He always calls him Junior. And in the third movie, they have to go on an adventure together. There's lots of conflict during the movie, and only in the very end, when Indiana Jones is about to fall down into a chasm, his dad realizes, I got to do better, and calls him Indiana for the first time. And that is, between those two characters, there is a very simple character arc from, like, they annoy each other, they throw accusations at each other, to the moment where Indiana Jones goes over a cliff in a tank and his dad thinks he's dead. Mm-hmm. That's the very important moment, because that's where he first realizes, oh no, actually I do want to be around my son. And then the very final scene where he calls him Indiana for the first time, which strikes me as a very efficient character arc, because there's not many scenes about it. There's maybe 3 or 4 scenes that actually go into detail, and still it informs everything that happens between those two characters. So it's a great arc for an adventure movie, mm-hmm. because it never gets in the way of the action or the plot, but it still is. It still makes the action better, because we care about the characters, and what they do actually matters to their relationship.
Yeah. So, a simple way to make a screenplay effective. You don't want to just have a good story in terms of what happens. Mm-hmm. For instance, in Indiana Jones, it's not just people go after the Holy Grail. Mm-hmm. You also want to make the audience care for these characters. And the way we can do that is by giving them flaws and embed in the story how they overcome their flaws.
Yeah, you don't need me. You said that much better than I could ever have. Yeah, I think that is one way of doing it. There's many others. That is sort of the traditional Maya Persistikov is persisting.
Wants and needs. So I heard that when you write a screenplay, people like me, they thought, okay, I have an idea for a story, let's start writing a screenplay. And it doesn't work like that. There are several steps. One of them is you want to make a profile of the characters. And when you make the profile, beside the flaw, you also want to outline what are their wants, so what they want and what they need. Why do you do that? Why is that important?
So basically that informs their journey over the course of the movie, and usually it is related to their flaw. Mm-hmm. So they will have something that they want, and that is what drives them through the story. And if we're doing this classical character-focused arc story, over the course of the story, at some point they're going to realize that is not what they actually need. By the end, they will have gotten what they need, and it will have made them better as a person. So in a way, it's just a manifestation of their flaw. Mm-hmm. But also, I've seen people frame it as the want drives the plot and the need drives the theme, because ultimately, it's what they want is what makes them act. Yeah. What drives forward the story as such, and the need is what the story actually explores. Mm-hmm. Be it whatever. So for
instance,
in Up for the Old Man, he wants to get away from everyone. He needs to be close to someone.
Masterful.
That drives the whole story. That drives the conflict.
Mm-hmm. In Indiana Jones, the want is the Holy Grail, but what they need is the relationship.
Yeah,
and that's the theme of the movie: the relationship between the father and son.
In a way, I mean, it's not a great example, because Indiana Jones never wants the Holy Grail. He only gets into it because there's the whole scene where the millionaire Donovan, he tries to get him to go and find the Holy Grail for him, and he says, no, this is my dad's job. And it's only when he says, we already asked your dad, he went missing, that Indiana Jones says, okay, I'm going to go look for my dad. There's different ways I find stories. Usually I start with a premise idea. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I have an idea for a title, and then I just try to figure out what the story could be about, but usually I think about, what if this situation happened? And I think, wait, actually that could make a good spec. So that's usually how I start. I have a premise, and usually I have a few ideas already about plot, but the first thing I will do is I'll create a couple of characters that will either clash or in some way have an interesting dynamic with the theme and with the plot. So I'll write a quick background about those characters. I'll give them, I don't always think about it as want and need, but something like that. And usually I'll sketch out their arcs. So I work in a 5-act structure. Mm-hmm. Usually people will be talking about 3 acts. I prefer 5 just because it gives you more of a scaffolding for the midsection. Just to have sort of the second arc build up, third arc, midpoint, fourth act, falling action or a second build up, depending on what you're doing. So I'll sketch out how the characters are going to develop over those 5 points. Usually with the first point is the starting point, 5th is how they end up, and then just 3 points. Usually they're going to improve towards overcoming their flaw in the second act. Something sets them back in the third act. They're going to be bad again in the fourth act, and then have their resolution in the fifth act.
Up, down, up.
Usually up, down, up is one way to do it. So I think I see there's 2 ways of doing a 5-act structure. Either it's up, delay, further up, or it's up, turning point down. That's I've a few notes on that, but I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, so I sketch it out for each character in 5 acts. Then, if there's any subplots, I might sketch those out again in 5 acts, and all of that is very abstract. So I might not write specific events. I'll just write for this character. There's something happens in which the specific flaw is relevant. Maybe like they have a. It depends, of course, what the flaw is. But if you say the flaw is, let's say the flaw is they always want to hunt for treasure and overlook the relationship with their son, then it might say in the second act they have a treasure they hunt together, so they will actually start bonding. In the third act, then something happens that sets them back. They will go their separate ways. In the fourth act, they will. Or usually that's what. Then fourth act is that actually happening in practice, and the fifth act is they realize actually they need the son more than the treasure. On this abstract level, and then I have a list of things that have to happen in each act. So I'll just write that out for each character, what has to happen in each act, for each subplot, what has to happen. Then I might make a similar list for the main plot, and then I just build the story around that, basically, because that already gives you all the main beats. So then I like to say plotting a movie for me is less coming up with ideas and more like playing Sudoku, because if I like to frame it as a problem solution kind of process. I have all these individual points, and I have all the holes between them, and I just try to find. I consider all the possible, or usually I'm too lazy to do all, but many of the possible solutions or fillers for each of the holes, and I try to figure out which works best.
So it's a creative job, but there is a science to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably a very bad example. I'm not your typical screenwriter, I think. The distinction between gardeners and architects that George R. R. Martin makes. He says there's 2 kinds of writers, gardeners and architects. Gardeners like to sow a seed of a story and see where it grows. That's what he does. He started writing a Game of Thrones, now we're waiting on the Winds of Winter, no one knows where it's going. Possibly not even he. And there's architects who like to plan everything out. And I'm probably the most extreme kind of an architect you're ever going to see. Like, I have to know what everything does before I write the first word of a screenplay. So yeah, it's a lot about filling in the gaps, and then once I've filled one gap or I've solved one problem, that might just create a new problem, and I'll keep going until I have them all solved. Then I type it up, and I have usually that gives you a 10-12 page synopsis or outline of the screenplay.
Is that same as a treatment?
Usually yes. For me, a treatment is a separate step. So again, it really depends on the writer. What many writers do, what we did in class, is your treatment is going to be about 10-12 pages. It's just a summary of what's going to happen. For me, I would call that an outline. I have treatment, for me, also has scene headings. I really start breaking down what is going to happen where. I want to make sure all conversations are sketched out, so when I'm writing, there's no unnecessary back and forth. There's no small talk unless I really want it to be. So for me, first I write the outline. Once I'm happy with that, once I'm happy with the story, or I have enough of it, which is what usually happens. I see this, it's not quite where I want it to be, but there's no more I can do here, so I'm going to solve the problems later. I move on. I break it down into scenes. I try to get a good summary of each scene. Then I try to make the scenes work, and once I'm happy with that, I have all the dialogues planned out. Then I go in and actually write the script.
Next segment. Now, this one is more on your wheel. It's the storytelling challenge.
Oh god.
One genre from the box.
At random, I suppose.
At random, yes.
Okay.
And then 2 characters at random from the Manila folders. And then you have 100 seconds to come up with a story.
100 seconds, okay. Can I see...
You can see the genre
Okay,
first. You can see the characters and then...
This one is... Oh,
yeah.
smiling at me.
So open it and then show it to the camera. That one.
Thriller, I can work with that.
Okay.
That's a relief. And 2 characters. And I'm assuming the time starts as I see the second character? No, okay.
We're not that strict, so don't worry about it.
And...
Okay.
Where's up, where's down?
Oh, when it and a pattern will emerge. Don't worry about it.
Jacked up Dracula. The sole heir of the IKEA fortune.
All right. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready. Yeah.
Again, the time starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, I think I have an idea.
Okay.
So this is yeah. So the main character is not you. The sole heir of the IKEA fortune, who is due to inherit IKEA as a company, which of course still is owned. I think he's still alive, by Ingmar Kamprad. Have you seen? I don't even know what it's called in English. There's a Norwegian comedy.
Time is running.
Oh, can I explain it in time, or do I have to? Wait, sorry. I have the idea. You can stop the time if you want. I can explain. Or is that part of the? I'm sorry. I'm so bad at this.
Yeah, let's start over. Again, are you ready?
Wait. Do I have to explain it within the time?
You come up with the story. Don't tell us about
But I have the story.
Yeah. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay. So the story is about the sole heir of the IKEA fortune, who is due to inherit IKEA as a company. It still is owned by the original founder, who's now very old, and he doesn't want to die or give up IKEA, so he's found a way to turn himself into a vampire. His sole heir is trying to contest that, saying that he's a vampire, he's dead, I should inherit this. So now he's being hunted by this Swedish IKEA vampire, and to help him, he recruits jacked up Dracula.
Who's gonna be played by The Rock.
Wasn't even thinking that far, but yeah, that works. I see him as like a neo-noir kind of private investigator, maybe that kind of type, maybe.
Cillian Murphy.
Oh yeah, I can see him as a vampire. That would work great. And yeah, I think there'd be lots of jokes, as in how can you make a vampire IKEA-like? Like he's going to be very, like the IKEA vampire's going to be very cheap about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like trying to be as minimalist and efficient as possible.
40 more seconds.
Yeah, so the story is about it's about the Jack of Dracula defending the heir to the IKEA empire, basically.
Nice.
That's all I have for now. I'd have to work on
That's good enough.
the arcs and the beats and everything. It's not a pitch yet.
Well, nice. Well done. Great
And
job.
there's so much IP in there, it's never going to be a pitch, I think.
An extinction level event is about to take place, and we can send a rocket only into space. And in the rocket, there's only space for 5 movies. And we hope that an alien civilization will find this rocket in the future. And we want these 5 movies to explain the human experience to the aliens. Which 5 movies do you pick?
I mean, my first impulse would be to go for silent movies. Or at least something that is easy to understand without language.
Smart.
I've not seen that many silent movies, so... Well, my thought is if we want to because I like adventure movies, sci-fi, fantasy kind of stuff. I'd pick something that more accurately represents what the world is actually like. I don't want to confuse aliens.
Yeah.
You don't want to be sending Star Wars out to aliens.
I think you're gonna have a laugh if you send Star Wars to aliens.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think about, from the perspective of aliens who know nothing about human culture, human society, what Earth is like, a movie that they could see that would basically be a good intro to humans. Shawshank Redemption,
It's an amazing movie.
Yes, but there's no women in it, and it's set in a violent prison. If we send them that movie, they're never gonna say hi to us.
It feels like it's
or I guess if we obliterate it, doesn't matter. But
it feels like it's pretty accurate about the
it is accurate, but you want.
Again, I know we were okay. You were trying to make us look good, and I appreciate that.
At least not too bad. Not like we're all either criminals or sadistic, corrupt.
I feel like let's start with the Shawshank Redemption. That's a good one. Let's see where we go now. So we put that one. It's accurate. Now we want to counter with something more heartwarming.
One of those episodic rom-coms where you just have many different stories. They're all very simple. They aren't necessarily realistic in the sense we usually use that word relating to movies, but for aliens who need an intro to human society.
Yeah.
They give a fairly good view of what it's like to live in a big city in wherever it's made.
Okay. Rom-com set in a big city.
Yeah, like the Love Actually kind of type, where you get many different stories.
Okay.
Maybe one that is, again, more representative, because I know Love Actually has often been criticised for being too straight and white. But there's a ton of these. Something like that, maybe.
Okay, so far we have Shawshank Redemption, Love Actually. How about something from Disney?
Oof.
Or are you not a big fan?
Not that big a fan of Disney. I'm more on. I'm kind of with Tolkien. He in his will he wrote that none of his materials may ever be adapted by Disney because he hated Disney.
I didn't know that.
And it's so. I'm just waiting for the day when Disney buys everything in the media landscape except for whatever owns the rights to the Lord of the Rings, because they can't buy it because it would violate. Bloody labials would violate Tolkien's will. But I mean, I liked Rogue One. That's my favorite Disney movie officially. But yeah, it's sci-fi. It's not at all accurate to what Earth is like. So I wouldn't. Also, aliens will laugh out of the room if they're actually. I guess they wouldn't be aliens to themselves, but you know what I mean.
Oh, how about we also add Rogue One, because humans are trickster and they like to have a laugh. And that's part of the human experience.
Oh, I would, thinking about it that way, I would actually add Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest?
Yeah, have you seen it?
No, I never heard of it.
Oh, it's considered one of the best parodies ever.
Okay.
It's a Star Trek parody, but also a satire on the Star Trek fandom.
Okay.
And it's about, basically a show like Star Trek called Galaxy Quest existed, but it's been off the air for 18 years. The actors are earning a living by doing conventions and shop openings and stuff like that, but then an alien civilization intercepted the transmission of the show, and they thought that's what life on Earth is like, and they built their entire civilization around it, and then they come to Earth and ask these actors, it's basically Tim Allen playing William Shatner, and they ask him for help against a real alien enemy.
That is awesome.
It's a hilarious movie.
Galaxy Quest. Yeah.
That would be. I think that would be funny for aliens too. Obviously, they wouldn't get it. They wouldn't get any of the dialogues. But
can you give me an adventure movie? Because you said you like an adventure.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Favorite movie of all time. Bless you.
Thank you very much. Some people choose Raiders of the Lost Ark, but my favorite is also Last Crusade.
The submarine ruins it for me.
What is something you're struggling with at the moment?
Something I'm struggling with in respect to my film career is probably my film career, because I don't really have one at the moment. But as I'd say, the biggest thing right now is just figuring out where it's going. Because I'm looking for a day job. I'm working on and off on a few projects, some smaller, some bigger, and it's I'm trying to stay open and see where things lead, because right now I just can't tell, and that's I like having a plan, and right now I just don't want this. Even when I talk to my parents and they're like, when you're gonna come visit us, I make no commitments for 2025, because in a month I might be working 40 hours a week, or I might not. See.
What is your wildest dream regarding the film industry?
Again, going for a very stupid answer, I think probably just working in it. You know, I'd love to, or maybe be in a position where I can have an idea, write a script, and just get it made, or even make it myself. I'd love to try my hand at directing at some point in the far future. Honestly, I think that mostly just being firmly enough established that I can. Honestly, no, I think that's a good answer. Just being in a position where I can worry about ideas and storytelling, and not everything that
comes with you. Yeah. If you can speak to your younger self, convince them to pursue a career in screenwriting, tell them why it's worth it.
Oof. Oh wow, I think that is the hardest question so far. For I think at least 3 reasons. First of all, because I don't have a screenwriting career yet, so I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. And thirdly, I don't think there's anything you could say that would stop my younger self from coming where I am now. So
I feel like that what you did, the thumb reason, that's your core value. Your younger self will not have been stopped, which means you cannot be stopped.
Well, my younger self couldn't be stopped from getting here.
Okay.
Let's see where I'm going from here. But yeah, I think that the best way of, I mean, you know, without interference from any time travelers, I got to where I am. Maybe I should just leave myself alone in the past.
Right.
Because I feel like if I start talking to myself, I might actually do the impossible and end up studying econ or psychology. Or
you're saying that it's more likely that you build a time machine rather than you break into the film industry.
I feel like one of those clashes with known laws of physics. I'm just not sure which one it is.
If there was an executive here right now, would you be able to pitch?
I've had a few ideas for projects over the last couple of months that I'm getting giddy to write.
Okay.
So I could probably pitch those too. So I'm gonna...
Let's do it.
I'm gonna let you pick. Do you want the one I've already written, or the one I'm getting really giddy to write?
The giddy.
Oh, okay.
Because apparently a good pitch is all about the excitement.
Okay. And this, you're the first person to hear this ever, I think. For once, I thought of a title before actually writing the script, and I'm really scared that it already exists.
What's
it probably does? It's The Shape of Time.
Never heard of it.
Okay, maybe it doesn't exist. Then that's good. It's a sci-fi thriller.
Cool.
And I think that's what I'm going to say.
Pick up a marker.
Okay. Oh.
Sign wherever you want, just not on the Apple. I'm trying to see for now. Is The Shapes of Time the one you pitched to me a while back?
No, I had the idea very recently, so... What did I pitch to you? Can you summarize it?
Time Traveler Pickpocket.
Oh, no. Oh, God, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that also exists. I've not thought about that one in so long. I have a terrible signature.
Nice. 3, 2, 1.